Hello YouTube, and welcome to Full Dottle, a channel dedicated to tamping topics such as pipes, tobacco, lore, and more. I am your host, the Bearded Briarman, and without further ado, let me teach you how to get lit. Welcome back everyone, and on this episode of Full Dottle, I'm going to teach you how to smoke your pipe. You've already chosen a pipe, you've already chosen a tobacco. Now we need to learn how to pack our pipe, how to do a false light, how to light it, how to tamp it, and how to keep a steady cadence. So let's get started. For our example today, we've got some Haunted Bookshop, which is a coarse cut tobacco. It's a burley based. I'm going to be smoking it in my Savinelli 673 KS rusticated Dolmiti. And the first thing that I do when a tobacco is ready to be packed, this is sufficiently dry, there's no dry time needed, it's coarse cut so I don't have to do any rubbing out of the tobacco. The first thing that I do is I run it through my fingers a little bit to see if there's any stems. Sometimes you will catch a stem, and you don't want those in your tobacco because a stem is going to cause a lot of difficulty in packing your tobacco into the pipe. I'm not feeling any stems in this, so let's go ahead and get started packing. The way that I pack my tobaccos, generally it doesn't matter what kind of tobacco it is, I rub it out into a ribbon type consistency and then I pack it up. For my method, very simple, I take little bits at a time. Take a small amount of tobacco, put it into the chamber of your pipe, and I tap the side of it. And what this tapping does is it helps to get the tobacco settled down into the chamber. Once it's settled a little bit, I take my index finger, and with the pressure, imagine you're pressing on a marshmallow. You're not trying to push the marshmallow flat. All you're trying to do is push enough that you feel that bouncing resistance, okay? Just like a marshmallow. So I tap it to settle it, and then I push just enough till I get a little resistance. A little more. I tap to settle it down into the chamber, and then I push just enough to get a little resistance. A little more, tap it to settle it, push to get a little resistance. A little bit more, tap, push, just until you get that bounce back. Just a little resistance, not much pressure at all. Now that we are just almost completely packed, that last little bit, I fill it up over the top, I tap to settle it down. I add just a little bit to make it look like it needs a haircut. Can you see that? Looks just like it needs a haircut. Now, using the pads of my thumb, place it on the edge of the bowl, and I just roll my thumbs inward all the way around to push the tobacco into the center of the chamber. I'm not putting any pressure down into the chamber of the pipe. I'm putting the pad of my thumb onto the edge of the bowl, and I'm just simply rolling around all the way around the pipe. Go all the way around the pipe, rolling around the edge, and that gets the tobacco centered into the chamber. And now I take the pad of my thumb, I cover the entire bowl, slightly push, and then round it out all the way around. And what you're really doing, you're not pushing so much into the chamber of the bowl. You're letting the pad of your thumb, when you cover the bowl and you push, you'll see that little circular indent on the bottom of the pad of your thumb. So all you're really doing is allowing the pad of your thumb, when you cover the entire bowl, to give it just a little bit of pressure to seat the tobacco down in there. And that's it. Now we've got a packed bowl. All right, so now we've got a packed bowl. The first thing you want to do after you pack your bowl is do a test draw. When you sip it, sipping is the act of drawing just like you would through a straw through the stem of the pipe. And all you want to do is do a test draw to make sure that it's not packed too tightly. Perfect. Now let's light it. When you're lighting your pipe, you have a fake light. It's called a charring light. All this is doing is basically trying to equalize the moisture that is inside of the bowl at that very top layer of tobacco. When you do this, you're not actually going to hold the flame on there and try to get a good ember created. All you're trying to do is char the top layer of tobacco. When we do this, you want to, just like you're stirring a pot, you're going to go around, and that's going to get the entire surface layer charred so that when you do light to form an ember, it lights evenly. So we're just going to work our way around just like that, very lightly, until the top layer is charred. All right, the top layer is charred. Now I'm going to take my tamper and I'm just going to push the tobacco down just a little bit. I'm not going to be giving any extra pressure. I'm going to let the weight of the tamper do all the work. When I'm tamping, I'm going to angle it like this and go around the bowl, all the way around. And what I'm trying to do, I want the tobacco to mound just a little bit in the middle. When I first started smoking a pipe, I had an issue with the tobacco burning down the center faster than it was on the edges. Now, there's a reason for this, and it goes far more in depth than just the way I was tamping. But for today's video, I'm going to show you what I did to correct that situation, amongst other things, but this was one of the first things I did to correct that situation. So when I tamp, I angle my tamper, and I go around the edges, creating just a little bit of a mound in the middle with that tobacco. So just go around the edges, let the tamper do all the work. The weight of the tamper do all of the work. I'm not pushing this tobacco. I'm letting the edge of the tamper create the mound, and the weight of the tamper do all of the work. And there you can see, there's just a little bit of a mound in the middle. It's a little deeper on the sides than it is right in the middle. Now let's go ahead and light to get a good ember. Remember, let the weight of the tamper do the work. You can lightly draw while you're tamping, and then that way you don't tamp your pipe out. But if you can see there, right in the middle, it's mounded just a little more than on the sides. And that helps to keep your tobacco burning around the sides evenly rather than it burning right down the center faster than the sides. A lot of that also has to do with the way you're drawing, but we're not going to get into that today. So now our pipe is lit. Now that your pipe is lit, let's talk a little bit about your cadence. Cadence is the word that we use that describes how quickly you are sipping through your pipe. Remember, sipping is the act of drawing it, just like you would through a straw. When you sip, it's going to be short, shallow movements, okay? Think about a fish puffing. That's the act of sipping. You don't want to sip very long, just short, shallow sips to keep the embers inside of the chamber stoked. Now I'm going to use an analogy. I want you to think about your air conditioning unit at your home. When you set your thermostat, the air conditioner doesn't run constantly. It only kicks on when the temperature reaches a level that is outside of what you had set it at. Think of your pipe the same way. Your pipe's temperature is set. When it starts to go down too far, you don't want it to go out, you're the air conditioner. It kicks on. Giving it just a few shallow sips to stoke the ember. Now the room, or pipe in this instance, is back where it needs to be, so the air conditioner kicks off. You only want to do that every once in a while. Generally, when I'm smoking my pipe, I'll take a few sips off of it and I'll rest it for just a few minutes. Then take another few sips and rest for a minute or so. And then do that again and again and again. That is a cadence. When you sip from your pipe and rest, sip from your pipe and rest. That's what we call a cadence. When you sip, it's just like the air conditioner being kicked on. When you kick the air conditioner on, it's going to make that ember stoke. It's going to get hot in there. So when it starts to get sufficiently hot and it's burning good, stop sipping from it and let it rest. You don't want your pipe to get too hot. You only want to sip enough that it keeps the pipe lit. You don't want it hot. The hotter your pipe runs, you risk damage to the pipe. You also risk changing the flavor of the tobacco you're smoking and making it rough and undesirable. You don't want that. Virginias, for example, if you smoke them too hot, it's like smoking hot air. There's no flavor and it will bite your tongue. Tongue bite is a caustic action on the tongue and it's not very pleasing. Just like an air conditioner, when the temperature reaches a level that is outside of what you set it at, it kicks on, it cools the room down to the level you want it, and then it kicks off. That's exactly how we need to do with our pipe. When the pipe gets down, it's not burning very well. Kick on, sip from it a few times to get it back where it needs to be, and then stop. Every once in a while you're smoking, the ember is going to separate a little bit from the tobacco underneath because the moisture inside of the tobacco, when moisture heats, the moisture escapes and causes it to expand. All you have to do is lightly draw while we tamp the way I showed you a little while ago. Angle your tamper, go around the entire chamber, angling in and keeping that ember a little mounded in the center while you gently draw. And that's all there is to it. It doesn't take much. If you pack your pipe too tight, it's going to cause you to burn really hot in your pipe because you're going to have to draw really hard to keep it lit. And you're going to have to draw constantly to keep it lit. A nice, what I like a loose pack like I showed you. it's just a little on the loose side, the pack stays perfectly lit throughout on most tobaccos that are sufficiently dry. However, it is not uncommon to have to relight your pipe, and anyone out there that tells you they never have to relight their pipe is either lying to you or they're smoking one type of tobacco that is so dry that it would create a forest fire. This is impossible. You will always have to relight your pipe with most tobaccos. It's just what happens. You'll get to talking, you'll get to thinking, or there'll just be too much moisture in the tobacco itself or something, and it'll go out. It's what happens. Onion at 2 a.m. Pipe on the Patio had a great video that just explains whether you have to relight or not, it doesn't matter. Smoke your pipe and enjoy it. If you have to relight 2 times, 5 times, 10 times, oh well. Relight your pipe. Don't listen to anybody who tells you you should never be relighting your pipe. That's nonsense. Now, with that being said, keep in mind, if you're constantly relighting your pipe, there could be something going on with the way you pack. Maybe you haven't allowed the tobacco to dry sufficiently if there's too much moisture, or maybe you need to keep your cadence up just a little bit. Either way, don't be afraid to relight. When you relight, just as we showed you before, go ahead and tamp first. Got a nice ember in there, mounted slightly in the middle, and stir the pot. When you relight, it's just like you're stirring a pot. Perfect. And then just keep a slow, steady cadence, and you're smoking a pipe. All right, everybody, that's going to do it for this episode of Full Dottle. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give me a thumbs up. And until next time we see each other, I bid you farewell and happy piping. Goodbye, everyone. Have you enlisted in the Full Dottle platoon yet? It's easy. Just click the subscribe button. Also, don't forget to click the bell icon to be notified as soon as I upload the next episode.